does it feel hearing all that?
I am very worried.
And that is the sound of our forest getting smashed.
Cyclone Gabrielle has caused destruction across many communities and industries, but we turn our attention to forestry now. The Taupō Forest Trust is counting the cost as thousands of hectares of trees were obliterated by the storm. It's been left looking like a bomb went off. One news reporter.
Well, I suppose we start at the start, eh?
Do you remember much about the night of Gabrielle?
Yep. We knew it was happening. We weren't sure about the scale. So
probably go back a step to before the cyclone. I was on holiday the week before the Eastern Bay of Plenty and saw the weather coming. Knew that it was turning a bit rough, but thought as per usual these cyclones always slip off to the east and they'd hardly really affect us down here. And as I was coming home, roads were shutting on the Sunday afternoon.
There will be destruction from the cyclone.
And I was checking through my phone, clearing some work emails, and I'd been called into an emergency Zoom about what we were going to do with this severe weather coming. So
yeah, we knew it was coming, so what to do, and we were up at the Ruamata.
On the Sunday night, the call was made to shut the forest.
Got told to stay home pretty much. Wait for the cyclone to hit, we didn't know obviously as much as the forestry companies did till
NZFM, Matt Owen had let everybody know, there's a cyclone coming. 2 days before it got here, we actually didn't have work. We were waiting for it.
And just to park our machines in a safe area and brace ourselves.
So me and my young fellow went back in that afternoon to get 2 machines out to Ruamata Road so we could cut back in. We knew there was going to be a lot of trees over.
It didn't come the first one, and then the second, it was after the second day, that night, that's when it came in.
The cyclone hit Monday night, Tuesday morning. And yeah.
I remember that night, the rain was just consistent all night.
Lying in bed, hearing all the flashings rattling around and the house shaking and everything just whistling, just like at the highest frequency I've ever heard.
Well, that night, I got up about 2 o'clock, could hear the wind too, and I walked out, and there was a tree there. Our trees had come onto our veranda. Yeah.
All the trees, breaking and snapping out behind my place was just, it was just surreal, really. I knew from what I was hearing, I knew that we were in for a major wind throw event. It was like gunshots going off every couple of seconds, and it was like that for a couple of hours. So 2 to 3 hours of just constant bang, 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 bang. And so walking around, or trying to walk around the streets at 2:30 in the morning, and you see neighbours out with their spotlights shining into the forest. We all knew that it was a major. Yeah.
Woke up to a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning from my Uncle Gordon, who stays out here at Mochopa. Reckons it sounded like a whole heap of gunshots and loud as and cracking. And he braved the wind and everything. Rode up the road on his bike just to have a look. And he reckons it wasn't easy. Yeah.
We got reports in on how bad it could have been. It didn't prepare us though for how bad it actually was.
daylight came, so we shot over. We were over in Rotoaira then. So we shot over, over the saddle towards Access Fall there. And when we got there, yep, that was just ratchet to see.
Yeah, it was really eerie. We couldn't hear any birds. It was quiet. We could hear the wind coming through. And then when you looked out and you saw it looked like a lot of white faces looking at you, and those white faces were trees that were broken, and they just showed the white side of the tree.
Everyone was talking about it, were
on our way down going, oh, this has been a lot of damage. We need to figure out what we can do and how we can do it.
Obviously, one of the things that we had to do was inform all our forest owners. So that was a key thing that we had to do on that first day. Let them know that Cyclone Gabrielle had caused some damage, and it was significant, but we hadn't determined the extent or the scale of that damage at that point in time.
Patrick Napier gave us a call and said what had happened, and he had gone up into Hautu there and seen it and asked if we would go up. So we got together with Napo to me and a few nannies, and we went up to the spot, and I could see it on his face, the impact it had on a person. Just on Patrick's face, I could see how he was looking, how he was feeling, and when we got up the top, we got on a high point and looked back into Te Hore Hore and Whitikau and Ruatahuna and all that, into that area there, and Yeah, you could see all those white faces. And that was the first thing that hit us. Yeah. We weren't going to look at how we're going to do the job. We were going there for another reason. And that was to lay down some karakia. Lay down some that was the first job that we believed we had to do on our whenua. So we did that with our tohunga napa or tumi. And we had our nannies, we had to take our nannies as well to give that balance for the work that had to be done by the tohunga. And that's what we saw all the way. You could see it all the way back, those white faces, and that's what it reminded us of the tupuna. You know, it reminded us of tupuna. We knew it was a pine tree, but you know, hoki mahara, the memories flow back of all the people, and that's what we could see. The pain for all the work that everyone has done over the years. Our trusts, our people, our management, our workers, our people on the ground that turned the soil over, cleared the whenua, and those that have gone by. So that was the most important part for us. Then after that, I guess everybody was comfortable that we can move on and get those steps, plan in steps to clean up.
You know, like, I speak for myself, but I think the story is the same for these two. Our koros and our uncles and our elders and stuff all helped establish these forests. You know, I was 6 or 7 years old when they signed the agreement at Korohea Marae. And went to work in the forest, became a contractor and all the rest of it, and now I'm a trustee. So I feel I've done the whole gamut, and what this place means to me, it means everything, the Forest Trust, and the people around it, and the land and everything like that. You can't beat it. And working in this model where you're working on land that you're an owner in, you can't beat that feeling. It's not for me anyway. You can't do it. I think for the Forest Trust itself, it'll be survival mode and just try to make sure that the people get the dividends that they've always had. It's going to be tough. And the grants and all that sort of stuff. You know, but yeah, under no illusions it's going to be harder. And we're losing value in those logs every day.
It doesn't change how you look at it. It doesn't change. You still feel the mamai, the pain and repercussions that comes with it. And we know everyone is doing their best to help the situation. Everyone, from the worker on the ground to the management, they're doing their best. Especially around, for managers, especially around keeping the whole place safe, keeping contractors safe. It's devastating every time we go up there. It's hard. We have on the other side, on my iwi side, apu side, we have wahi tapu that are almost destroyed, unidentified, lost. Yeah. You pick your way through it to try and get there, isolate or cordon off the area so we can start working towards finding these wahi tapu of ours. Devastating. So you have to take all that in as you're doing the job, and for our workers feel that. They want kaumātua to come out to them and have a whakamoimiti, have a prayer with them, talk to them, because they feel that as well.
Sitting in the office here, we were sort of listening, and we could notice the wind dropped around sort of mid-morning, I suppose. So a few of the field staff were able to get out and about and look around the forest and see where we might be able to open up access. So by the afternoon of Tuesday, I think it was, we had some of the closer areas, especially west of here, Rotoaira Forest, opened pretty quickly once some roading gear had been out.
We got some of our crew, 3 of our guys, to go straight out into the bush, and they had to walk a farm edge to their machines to get back into their machines, then to walk back out and open the road up for some of the locals.
By Tuesday afternoon, we had jumped onto, got satellite imagery for Rotoaira. There was no imagery available for Lake Taupo or Taupo Estate, and that was because of cloud cover. So we knew what we're dealing with over Rotoaira. All the crews, most of the crews that we had at that time were based in Rotoaira, and we knew that we could safely open up the roads and get all those crews back to work. And I think we had all our Rotoaira crews back working by Tuesday afternoon.
We opened the roads up the first morning. We got together, just had a really good talk about what we needed to do to make sure that everybody was safe in the bush.
Wednesday morning, we flew the couple of crews that were still in Lake Taupo. We flew them into their machines so that they could start cutting their way out of the forest and clearing roads. I mean, all the roads were just covered in trees, and it was a major just reopening access, and just trying to determine exactly what we were dealing with, or scale of what we were dealing with.
It was pretty soon identified that we were going to do our best to minimise boots on the ground, mechanise as much as we could, and employ all sorts to try and open up roads as safely as possible. So firstly got our roading crews out there with their machines to try and pull things off roads, and grab surplus harvesting machinery, processors and harvesters out to clear roads, and
that took probably a week or two before we were able to get some good accurate numbers on the area of damage. Took a bit longer before we were able to determine the volume that had been affected and the age classes that had been affected, and as it turned out, it was all the older trees in the forest. Most of the trees were probably 18 years and older, and so we were well aware that there was significant volume that was required to be salvaged,
and that obviously had some flow-ons through into where and how we were going to market and sell the logs arising from our salvage operations. So firstly was sort of getting a handle on the amount of the volumes that we had, the grade mix or the product mix within those volumes, and then how we were going to place it in the market, and balanced against that the fact that time was not our friend. We were working against time, because over time the quality of the logs would deteriorate.
Later on down the track, we had the option of using mechanised thinning gear for smaller roads. Their program had come to a grinding halt with us because we were unsure what we were going to do with some of those thinned or to be thin stands until they were assessed for how much damage might be in those. So they were surplus. They were able to whip around and open up a whole heap of roading with low risk, so that was awesome. And then suppose as we carried on, we just were constantly writing lists of things we thought needed to be done, and things that popped up. Working with sort of our third parties, neighbours, public, people who had assets within the forest, like utilities companies. So around here, the power station owners, Genesis, the lines company, Transpower with the main transmission lines, DOC, NIWA, and quite a few others. Also, lots of the forests we manage have recreational access for hunting.
The forest was closed and is still closed. There are areas in Lake Taupo Forest that's been opened up, but it's been closed to the public, to recreational use.
I'd say the impact that probably hit our trust the most is probably all around our owners and access. Obviously, that was due to health and safety concerns around the state our forest was in. We couldn't allow our owners basically to go in there and do their normal kite gathering.
And that ends up pushing a lot more people into one place, and that has its own issues when that happens. But we know that we have to get through this bit, and then it's going to open up again.
So managing the comms around that and figuring out areas that could be safe to reopen further down the track.
And across about five different forests, Lake Taupo Forest, Taupo Estate, Rotorua Forest, both Crown owned, the Crown lease areas within Rotorua, as well as areas owned by the Trust, and there was also Wairake Forest owned by Linz, just north of Taupo.
Made several versions of maps to look at the damaged area by age class, terrain type, and also the environmental issues surrounding them.
Like, we monitor the nutrient levels in the waterway once a month, and we've been doing it for 30 years just to make sure if there's any changes and it doesn't have any effects on the lake. Access was a big issue for us. We couldn't check our trap lines to keep the pest numbers down to protect all our native birds.
There weren't too many environmental issues within Rotorua. I think they did shift the hauler down on the fat by XS4, and that was obviously to mitigate that risk of any environmental issues with having a normal ground-based crew in there.
Also reached out to our councils and told them all that we're in salvage mode, and these are the areas we're going to be salvaging, and we're going to be doing this for a long time. They were really great to deal with. They came back to us and said, we understand, and let us know if you need a hand. So very good there. And then we sort of looked to scaling up our operations.
And I think the key to it was we needed to get in there. We knew we needed to get in there quickly. It's all about minimising the value loss to the forest owners. So we knew we had to ramp up quickly. Get harvesting and trucking capacity in here as quickly as we could.
It was figuring out who was available, where they were, what they had, and what we needed. So criteria for our harvesting crews was soon established, and we went with, given the risky nature of windthrow, it was fully mechanised operations with some level of certification, and Safe Tree was a big driver of that.
When managers made the decision for certification, we got a bit of a influx of calls for certification for people to come in here. There's a few new crews that have never been certified before, so probably worked with a couple of those crews around certification, but it's just supporting them where they fall short to get the final tick off for certification, really.
Having Safe Tree contractor certification meant that anyone we engaged already had a very high standard of systems in place.
I talked to Matt Owen at the start, and basically we had to be safe tree suited, which we were going through, and then we found other jobs and got busy, and then it got quiet again, and then we talked to Chris Benson from Hatapu, and he must have talked to Matt, and here we are now.
I encourage the crews when I go around to speak at their meetings, their health and safety meetings that they have, because forest managers want to hear from the people and want to hear what's happening out there and get the learnings so that they can share them while they're out there. So I really encourage them. It's not a talk fest from the company. They want to hear what's happening out there and people to share their stories.
Yeah, it is. You can see it starting to get to our harvester driver. I mean, he's just flat sticks all the time. He's flat out. He's got to stay ahead of two processes, so he's just going nuts. And I suppose not only him but myself and the crew are starting to feel a little bit over it. All this wind blow, but it's work. So.
Given that if they had the right configuration and met a few other criteria, I'm more or less ready to go. I wasn't able to take on every contractor available, but we had to balance that with the trucking. So we ramped up, as John said, from our base level of contractors up to about 20. Once we got to 20 crews, we had to work through the trucking. The production rates were far outstripping the uplift capacity, and that is a challenge that you face when you're running completely unconstrained. So.
Bringing in new contractors, we were well aware of the devastation that had occurred over in the Hawke's Bay and Tairāwhiti regions, and we knew that there was surplus harvesting and trucking capacity available in those areas, so the guys were on the phone the day of the cyclone, which has been really fortunate for us that we were able to get that capacity, because had it not been available, things would have been very different here.
We'd heard about it from Rainier on the Sunday, and we just started making inquiries and sort of what work was out there, because we knew Hawke's Bay was devastated.
We'd only in the morning we'd only just got the start of it, but then it just got worse.
There was no roads anywhere. There was very limited access to any forest. You couldn't even get up to the likes of Rukamoana in that forest because the Nape Taupo, the bottom end of the Esk, was washed out. And then you had the linking road, Glengarry, that was washed, and it was just a mess. Yeah. So we got the gear to Awaho, and then the plan was just to shift it to Taupo and see what we could find.
Well, we got hit the hardest, but then we had a few mates in Napier, and that their places, houses were all underwater. They were just gone. Thank God, mate. Unreal. But not only did it affect them, but it affected us as well. It affected carting, so that shut down we got a crew and a couple of crews in East Valley. It affected them, so that was the end of the carting, so the forest company there shut it down, because there's nothing they could do.
Yeah, Hawke's Bay's been really tough. But the hauler crew, they were in Hampton's forest, so that's up Willow Flat Road. So Napier Warrell, and then you turn off sort of halfway. So they were trapped. But Blaine, he went out a week after the storm and assessed everything and started making a plan. And he actually took his gear out through the forest, met a farmer, went out through his farm and got to Pooktree. and then got the gear on the transporter at Pootree, and it went Pootree, Wairau, Gisborne, right around the coast, back around. Yeah, but he probably had more of about the same walk as us, but probably a little bit more treacherous. They were having to tether into gullies in the farm and then tether out of gullies to get machinery out, so yeah.
The coast was shut down, totally. The crews, I think we had 3 crews up there, they were shut down because mainly cartage was the biggest thing, and the forest companies wouldn't let anybody in anyway. So there was actually nowhere for us to go. And then, if it wasn't for the weather event, to hit this place, we would have must have been parked up. It just helped out sort of everybody coming here. Not only us, not only us in our own trucks, but others too, you know.
So we were here within 2 weeks of the cyclone. Yeah, I've got all the dates written down. We were a week getting out. Oh no, so the cyclone was the Tuesday, and we had, yeah, it was the Tuesday. Monday we started retrieving gear, and I think we had, yeah, well, it must have been 2 weeks we had everything, most of it out. Yeah, and straight into Rotorua. Yeah.
And how we change things compared to our conventional way of harvesting, when you've got a stand that's, you know, no wind blow in it.
It's a bit of a prick. Some blocks you get, just depends where your road is. It's quite easy. Well, I wouldn't say easy, but it's easier. In some cases you have to turn the water around. Yeah, that's just a nightmare. That is just for extraction. Yeah, that whole access 4 block wasn't actually too bad. Where our road entry was into the block, we sort of only maybe had to turn about 30% of the block, and the rest of it was all had blown over in a good direction for extraction.
We just had to approach it differently. So talking about how we approach when the trees are laying one way, trying to come in from the back end. You can't always come in from the back end, but if you're coming in from the heads, how we move those trees to the side so that we can get to the back and then work our way with the butts, you know, facing the processor or the harvester.
So what I do, if it's depending on where your processing side is, I'd work my way from the back, and then I'll slowly turn my trees. Obviously it's probably not full way around, but sort of at least a sideways for your operator to get at them. You'll probably use a nice face and keep to that face all the time, rather than putting holes all over the place, so your extraction operator knows how you're working.
And also about what we do with the root balls. And as you can see back in here, you know, we've got a lot of root balls of the trees exposed. Normally we don't have that. The roots stay in the ground, but with the way that these trees have tipped over, some of them have got the root balls exposed, so we need to pick those up and kind of move them across in an area where they're not going to be in the way of your operation.
Really, planning is your big one. Planning a fill site is your biggest. If they plan that right, you know, and know the dangers like the root ball holes, the turning of the tree. Take their time. Don't rush. But the main thing I reckon is planning your fill site. Plan your fill site properly.
But with that, an extra added risk comes with it. When you move that root ball, it leaves a big hole in the ground. And so for our operators, we're talking to them about you know, being aware of your surroundings and where those holes in the grounds are, because it's easy for you to put one track into that hole, and then as you're tracking forward, it rises up on a root ball that might be on the other side, and you know the ability to tip, you know, increases when you've got a situation like that.
Root balls, if you cut them on the spot, if you can pull them out, that's fine, but then you're leaving big holes in the ground, which is quite dangerous on the machine. Sometimes you can't see those holes and you run over the machine and you almost tip the machine, so you got to watch that.
So the safety side within the bush, was probably changed a little bit with the root balls and with the holes that you leave.
Dealing with the high tension, you know, logs, broken logs, stuff that's been blown over beforehand, the crisscross all the way down the lines. Sometimes the ones that are in front are blown over first, and then so on, blow over after that. So you've got to, can't get the ones in front, so you try and get to the ones at the back, and you know, not always straightforward, crisscross.
Out on the skids, it wasn't so much of a difference. It's what did happen. The difference was you just increase your billet wood and your pulp, and so we had to manage that as we were working through. So yeah, it was making sure that we're not putting our stacks up too high, knowing that we're going to leave wood behind as our operation moves forward, and making sure that we leave it in a manner where it's nice and safe for everyone else to come through if it's not going to be us loading it out, if there's someone else going to be coming in behind us.
Certain areas in this place is a lot of sandy ground, a lot of stony ground. And when the tree's been blown over, all the stones and sand go into the bark. And when you cut the tree, you're hitting the stones and the sand that's in it. No matter how much you try and clean it, you're going to hit stones and sand here. So you go through quite a lot of change the odd days. Most of the ground here is pretty good. That's all right. Yeah. So obviously when you see a high tension tree, and a lot of the times you can't get the head where you want it to cut. Okay, so it could be half a metre away. Obviously the better, closer to the butt the better, but otherwise you're trying to get a clear space so your chain will cut through the log a lot better. Okay, without splitting and breaking wood. Majority of the times you'll break wood anyway, but if you can grab it, put tension down with the head on, using the machine on the tree while cutting, you're going to give that high spring, kickback, whatever it is, you know. Yeah, so but yeah, it's just a matter of we talk it over, make sure everything's going right, If it's not, well, we get the supervisor involved and whatever. But we're all here to make it work. It's no good, no good if no one's going to do it, eh?
So other things we had to take into account when trying to secure harvesting and trucking capacity is trying to use the supply chains of other forest companies. We had to explore whether that was an option.
Yeah, that's the key. If the market had been stronger, then we would have got more per cubic metre for our logs, but the downside was that we wouldn't have the capacity, because all that capacity would be back where they normally would be operating, and we'd have a lot of wood sitting on the ground going rotten.
Contrary to how we usually operate, most of what we produce is sold domestically, but with the windthrow, a lot of our domestic customers do not want to take our windthrown logs, so that's necessitated having to export the bulk of what we produce.
So our harvesting contractors had no production constraints put on them, because we wanted to get through this as quickly as we could. So once we sort of hung on around 20 odd contractors for a while, the log market actually took a bit of a dive, and then a whole heap of trucks became available.
The volume of traffic's when you're used to only having 60 trucks and then going to over 200, it's a shock for us, I suppose. You just, like the old thing, drive to the conditions. Everybody doesn't know, hey, all these poor you fellas have come from out of town, don't know our bush, and but the roads, you certainly notice it with the roading. It's had a big impact on our roading in there.
Over probably 500 truck movements a day. It's something we've never obviously experienced before within our forests.
Old pruned was high priority. That's what we viewed to minimise value loss to the forest. So the crews we already had on, that's pretty much where they were anyway.
The wood is held up a lot better than we thought. We thought by now we might be just cutting pulp, but we're still cutting some really good saw logs, and we're even cutting prune logs that are still good for the market.
I think we're just lucky our trees are a lot, are just the bigger stand, I guess. I think a lot of that smaller stand's going pretty black. We have started a new grade, so they want us to separate the badder or worse sap stain logs from the not so bad. So it's 50% sap stain we've got to separate from the rest. So that's having 2 sets of stacks for just about every grade. Not on. But it is what it is.
So where the trees have fallen and they've fallen on the ground, roots attached.
That's all right. That's still most of the loads have been going pretty good. It's just that pulp, the dead snapped off stuff. It's pretty dead.
But it's harder. It's harder to put through the heads because it's so dry. Everything's gone hard. But you get some of this green stuff. It just slides through. But the stuff that's just been blown over, that the roots are still in the ground. It's not too bad. Still got a bit of weight, and it's not as sap stained. It's not as bad.
And it's still, with current sort of prices are such that we can still return a positive stumpage to the forest owners at this stage anyway. The Lake Taupo Forest and Rotorua Forest and to a certain extent the Taupo Estate have always been considered well managed, well tended, high quality stands. So from a marketing and selling perspective, it's not as though this windthrow happened in wood that was not so flash. So that's been a big help. So the market for many years has been well aware of how good the wood is from this particular area. So that has certainly helped, and the fact that you've got FSC certification, well tended, well managed stands is helps that whole process of being able to market and sell the market knows what our wood's like, and you don't have to send a whole heap of samples or anything like this to get it checked out. Everyone knows if it's got a purple paint mark on, then it's it gets the tick.
We'd identified that port space was going to be an issue for us. Log prices at the time were, at the time the cyclone hit, and were quite good, and so we foresaw that congestion at the port could be an issue for us. So we had to explore all sort of options to see how we could move the wood from forest to the port, or from forest to the market, really. And so we bought an additional capacity to help with that internally. So within NZFM, we had to scale up our management staff. We needed more supervisors. We needed more planning capability, harvest planning capability. We needed more health and safety capability. And more admin capability to process the increase in dockets, log dockets we were expecting. We had to outsource our dispatch, because we had identified that our dispatch wouldn't be able to cope with the volumes that we needed to move. So Trimble was contracted to do our dispatch.
How did that sort of roll on? You and everyone else? Well, yeah, like I say, it's a big. Hey, we've all got we don't like change. Something you've got to adapt to. It's a good thing. It's going to be a good system eventually. Once all the little, like anything new, it all has its teething problems. But yeah, and for the volume of wood they're dealing with, yeah, they do a pretty good job. It's a big learning curve for the new dispatchers too. I suppose they don't know our bush, so.
Rolling out that stuff when you've got such a big program coming on and a whole heap of new contractors isn't easy, but it was only going to get harder, we thought, with a whole heap more contractors in waiting and coming on down. So.
And trucking became a pinch point. Was a pinch point early on, but
and then a whole heap of trucks became available as our sort of in-forest bush stocks started to drop. John actually went for another fly around the forest, and he sort of looked around and said, "I've hardly made a dent in it, make some more phone calls." So we quickly went from 20 up to around 40 crews.
Most of what we're producing is being exported, about 80%, which is contrary to how we usually operate. Most of what we produce is sold domestically, but
other key, well, I would consider key factors that make this thing is, and you look at things, we talk about the market, the slightly weaker market being a plus for us, and that but the other big plus for us is that the majority of our stands that were smashed are on flat terrain, so that meant they could be handled with mechanised ground-based systems. I mean, if you think about it, if it happened in steep country, you'd need a whole lot of specialised equipment, and the ability to handle the sort of volumes that we're handling would have been compromised if we'd had that 5,000 or 6,000 hectares that were tipped over. If that had happened on steeper country, that would have been so we've been blessed in that regard, and I I think the other thing that's helped us enormously is the time of year with the cyclone coming through in February, towards the second, in the second half of summer. So it meant that you went through winter. So in terms of bugs and in terms of impact on the quality of the logs, so during the colder winter, cooler months, the stuff holds up a lot better than if it had happened, if we'd had the blowdown towards the end of winter, coming into spring and summer, coming into the warmer time, that you would have had a lot more and more rapid deterioration of so there's been a number of things that have been on our side, if you like, things that have fallen our way a bit.
We also need to, look forward, sort of post salvage and look at, the replanting of these areas once they've been cleaned up, and that in itself poses a lot of challenges. So we're actually working with government at the moment because there is a requirement under the Missions Trading Scheme to have everything replanted within 4 years of the event, and we see that as a bit of a problem because it potentially causes a whole range of other issues. Having to replant 6,500 hectares within essentially three planting seasons creates, or has the potential to create other issues, and we want to extend the replant out for a longer period.
Yeah, but we'll rebuild. We'll get back out here again, and we'll prepare the land so that our future, have got something to look forward to.
Early in the new year is a traditional woodlot season starts with things kicking off. We see a few crews heading back to their homes, back to the jobs that they came from when the log market dived or things got too wet.
We're moving over 300,000 cubic metres a month at the moment, and they're big numbers. They're very, very big numbers. So we're making a hole in it, and we're hoping to have salvage around 2.2 to 2.4 million cubes by Christmas, which will leave about a million cubes to do in the first 6 months of next year. So we're well on target to achieving our target of salvaging 3.4 million cubes by 30 June 2024, and that's huge.
I think the forest managers have pulled everybody together really, really well. Massive task to bring all those crews together and all those people, the trucking and the skills and the bushmen and the contractors and stuff like that, all in quite a short space of time too. I think we were all up and running to about 30 crews within 3 months, and that's not easy to do. So big ups for forest managers in that respect.
I think the team at Forest Managers have done an awesome job to date. They've done, with what got thrown upon them and overnight, and where they are now, they do care. They care about their people.
I guess just a big thumbs up to Forest Managers, really, for getting on top of this. This is a big job, big operation. It's a big area to try and get onto. They've managed it well. They're managing all these crews well, the trucks. And a big ups to all the crews. They're doing, all the number of crews in here, number of trucks in here, and we've had bugger all accidents or anything like that. Touch wood. So they're doing good. Doing a good job.
Yeah, it has been a challenging time for New Zealand forest managers. I believe they've done, they put their best foot forward.
We talk about the devastation and everything we've lost, what's happened. It's lucky that's all we lost. We've lost trees, we've lost some future value. We potentially might have lost some work in the future as well for a little bit of time. It's going to grow again. We're going to get it back.
All those fellows that helped us, that we acknowledge them as tangata whenua, as a trust, like Taupo Forest Trust, o Taara, Autu Whenua. We acknowledge these people, that they go home safely, knowing that they've done a great job for us.
Anything you want to finish up with? Oh no, just really, we're just really grateful to all our contractors for the work that they've done to date. I think the harvesting contractors have done a fantastic job to date.
And a big thank you to all our contractors. They've been able to change the way they operate to meet the demands of the wind throw pretty quickly, and come up with all sorts of really good ideas. And yeah, like I say, that feedback coming back to us has been really amazing. So far, this has probably gone better than most had expected. So we've still got a wee way ahead of us, but yeah, we're optimistic it'll carry on and everyone can go home safe to their families.
And full credit to everyone involved. It's been a mammoth effort by everybody. Yeah. So yeah, long may it continue, and we just want everyone to keep safe and carry on doing what they're doing. So safety, being able to do this in a safe manner has been, again, one of our key objectives. And I think the guys across the board have done an amazing effort.
You reckon covered?
Yeah, I reckon so.
Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah, I think you should get Shappy to talk about markets.
Right. What can we do for you? Do you want to buy some logs?
Oh, yeah.